as it ceases looking back at what we became. No one is special, we're all just the same. Tell you what you should believe.
Game conditioning under their legs. Now it's time to turn focus to the South Texas Derby, which always brings out the best of the team, and especially when it's played at home, and especially when you have to face familiar faces. So it's going to be one of those things where the team, I feel that Coach Echeverry is doing the best possible job he can to get the team ready to rock and roll Friday night.
Yeah, I guess you can say that it was a. There's a lot. Actually, there is a lot to talk about this match because it brought up a lot of interesting aspects that I feel a lot of people have different points of view regarding the performance of the team. And guys, thank you so much for thank you so much for your patience. Sorry about that. I accidentally pressed the wrong button on Stream Deck, which turned off the actual streaming. So hashtag blame Edson. But thanks for everybody for coming back. Let everybody know that was here. Letting everybody know that it's been fixed. And let's get the show on the road. Like I said, welcome to another episode of Down in the Valley. My name is Edson Ochoa. We have Ray Silva from South Texas Border Sports on today, as you heard him. We've got a lot of. How dare you, Johnny? How dare you? How dare you? It's my fault, and you're gonna let Down in the Valley suffer. Thanks, Johnny. I'm just kidding, man. But anyway, guys, once again, because I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure that didn't get recorded. If you guys want to check out our previous episodes, be sure to check out our podcast as well as other USL podcasts on the Beautiful Game Network's website at bgn.fm. Check out their sponsors, Icarus FC and Roughneck Scarves. Also, be sure to check out our sponsor, uh, which is Natural Beauty Spa. Thank them all for the support. And if you guys need a facial once this is over, give Natural Beauty Spa a call. And also, we want to send our condolences to the families, as I mentioned, during the time that we were off the air. Uh, we want to send our condolences to the families of Officers Edelmiro Garza and Officer Ismael Chavez, who died in the line of battle, or in the line of duty this past weekend. But let's get the show rolling, Ray. So we talked about it last week. We had Coach Echeverry on. One of the things that we did mention, and we kind of emphasized on it, was how long their bus trip was going to be from the Valley to El Paso, and we were kind of wondering. We're kind of debating how much effect that was going to have on the players, on their legs, going into last Saturday's match. It's really interesting, how something that a lot of people might not think might make a difference. You look at how most of the team played on Saturday, and it's like you leave yourself wondering, like, man, are they really this bad, or did that trip really have that much of an effect on them?
Look, I've never ridden in a bus no more than 6 hours nonstop. I I I will tell you that that trip must have had its effects, and then you compile the fact that they haven't had a competitive match
Yes.
in a little over 2 months, close to three. You add those two factors, you're going to see a lot of rust. And you know, I'm not surprised at the result. I was surprised with the quality of play throughout the first half. I don't want to see the second half of the tape. I don't. It was it wasn't the worst performance, but it left me with a very sour taste in my mouth because that match had draw written all over it. Regardless of the game plan, whether you were going to go out and try to get three, I felt like that match had a draw written over it because of the conditions that the team had to deal with. Not being allowed to go via plane. Instead, you have to take a 12-hour bus trip, and I'm not surprised at the result. I would have been a little bit more surprised had there been more goals allowed. But Blanchett played a nice role. He stepped up when needed,
Mm-hmm.
came up with some key saves. That was good to see. Emil goal really surprised me, and I kept telling you guys off the record, watch out for that guy. He can be a promising young one.
Mm-hmm.
Carter Manley, his play really surprised me as well. The entire back line uh, really held up until the goal came in. I mean, basic it was basically like five different goalies out there, and that's why the 0-1 result didn't surprise me at all. I would have been content with the draw. I would have celebrated that draw with like 3 points,
Mm-hmm.
but again, I just feel like this team needs to learn how to put away chances. It's been a recurring problem for the last 3 seasons. They'll have their fair share of chances. I just think that those abundances of chances uh, need to be taken advantage of. Eh, El que perdona pierde. He that forgives will lose. That's a great saying in soccer, and I'm just afraid that the Toros might be stuck with that phrase. Have been stuck with that phrase for quite some time now. But I just hope that the South Texas Derby might be a little bit of a proving point for them to get the to hit the ground running and try to get 3 Friday night.
So let's take a look at the lineup that we presented on Saturday. We had Paul Blanchet on goal. We had Emil Lagol on the right hand side. He was the right back. Then you had Carter Manley and Robert Castellanos as the center back pairing. Then Robert Coronado as the left back. Seems simple enough, right? You bring in
Yes.
somebody with the experience of Carter Manley, to try to bolster up that defense full of young guys, kind of help them out with some of that experience, not only with MLS with the Loons, but also with Forward Madison and Las Vegas Lights in their respective USL leagues. Then you've got in the middle, you had Isidro Martinez and Timo Melic as your center mids. You've got Tyberson and Kevin Rodriguez out on the wings, and then Luca Purpa and Juan Carlos Obregon Jr. as a striker. Now, my biggest question here, and I mentioned it. I did mention it on the last episode. I said if you don't have to put in Tyberson since he's coming off of an injury, especially with the situations where we're at right now, where you're being thrown into the arena, of competitive play, and you were pretty much without competitive play for weeks. That just spells like either A, if he gave it his all, he puts himself on a risk for injury, or number two, he was going to play conservatively and not put in his 100% to try to avoid any kind of injury, especially on a baseball field, right? So then you had Juan Carlos Obregon, that was considered the striker. And it looked to me more like, because the USL had it as like a 4-5-1 kind of formation. To me, it looked like Luca Purpa was alongside Juan Carlos Obregon, so kind of like a 4-4-2 formation. I'm not sure what you think about that, Ray, but it was a lineup. It was a lineup that kind of made sense now that with the addition of James Murphy, Jonathan Jimenez, and of course Carter Manley. That gives you enough depth to go back to the tried and true four-man defense. In the first half, everything seemed, there weren't really any shots on goal, but RGV kind of
RGV had a clear chance to try to go ahead.
They had the initiative to go out and attack, to try to put danger on El Paso's offense. They weren't very accurate, but they had the initiative. They had the possession. They had the shots. They had those opportunities on goal. Second half comes around. All of a sudden,
it's a whole different team.
I don't think you could have said it better. It was a completely different team. It's almost like the
Heckle and Jide effect. The Heckle and Jide effect came into this team once again.
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. The defense kept on balling, but the midfielders. Where were the midfielders? I mean, I can't possibly blame the strikers, because if you don't have the ball, How do you expect the strikers to get the ball? How do you expect Luca Perpa to get the ball? How do you expect Juan Carlos Obregón to get the ball? If they needed to get the ball, they would have to scoot back and try to win possession, but they're going to be too deep, right? But where was the midfield? Where was Chelo? Where was he to begin and build the attack? Where was Timo? We brought Timo because we know that he is a player that loves to shoot from outside the box, and I have yet to see that. Now, I understand that they were probably tired. I understand that they were probably, not in the best fitness to play 90 minutes. But in 45, after 45, after playing so well, all of a sudden, they disappear. They disappeared off of the field because I didn't see anything from them. Chelo and Timo, which were supposed to be the more defensive midfielders to kind of contain, there was no midfield whatsoever. El Paso just kept on barraging the defense. They were just kept on going and attacking and, all of this stuff. And the midfield was nowhere to be found. And when we did steal the ball away from El Paso, we would lose it right away. So you look at the stats. I mean, you look at the stats, man. 66% possession for El Paso, 33.9% for RGV. And I think that's very generous. But that's probably because of the first half. Right?
Correct. Now, here's another stat that really came down boggling to us, that really dethrottled us throughout the second half. First half, we were up there in pass accuracy, but it went down so much in the second half that it was only in the upper portion of the 70s. Now, the Toros are known to be a very high percentage a pass accuracy, but during the second half, it's like El Paso eliminated Luca Perpa from the Toros, made him next to non-existent, and basically it took away our generator on offense to try to get going on offense.
Mm-hmm.
That's also another key to consider. They El Paso bogged down really good defensively to where they stopped the creator Perpa to try to generate offense and try to recover balls in the midfield.
But to me, it seems like the midfield was too gassed, or they were not physically prepared to contain. They were not physically prepared to distribute. And when you lose your midfield as bad as you did on Saturday, of course bad things are going to happen. And if this scoreline wasn't as bad as it actually was, if this scoreline wasn't worse than what it actually was, it's thanks to the defensive line and Paul Blanchette, who I gotta say, Paul, I know I dogged on you after the first match, but this is exactly how you shut the haters, you shut the people that criticize you up. You pull yourself back up and you give performances like this. So kudos to you for having a decent performance against El Paso. Let's keep at it that way for the rest of the season.
And I called it. I called it that he was going to have a good showing.
You did. You actually did call it. So yeah, go ahead. For as much as the defensive line and Blanchette played so well, that goal that El Paso got, it wasn't as I guess it was a lucky bounce that El Paso got to get their goal. Okay. It was. I differ with that, and I'll go ahead and I'll show proof. I'll put the play right now. But go ahead.
the El Paso. If there had been someone marking him on that free run, the goal scorer, I think we may be talking about a scoreless game.
You want okay? Let me put that play right now, just because you
Yes,
just
show the play,
okay.
please.
All right. Actually, I am going to.
Don't fail me, Edson.
I got you.
No, no,
I got
no
you.
me falles, no me falles.
All right. So here's the thing.
Don't fail me like Twitter has done to me today.
Seems legit. All right. So I believe this is the play right here. Let me actually mute the audio. But okay. So this is the 82nd minute, right?
Mm-hmm.
As you can see right here, I don't. As you can see right here, I wish I could. Okay, there we go. You've got your back line of 4, or it should be, but they're all very centralized, which isn't an issue because there's nobody out on the wing for El Paso. If you notice, everybody from El Paso is kind of leaned towards the left side of the field. So Robert Coronado had a good idea to go more towards the midfield and try to expect a run out to the wing or try to block number 29, because let's be honest, number 29 had already gotten past the midfield of Timo, and I believe that was Deshane Beckford already, right? So you're in a 3v, and look at where Emil is. He is way ahead of the defensive back line, right? So let's continuing to play. All right. So here in this part, you see that Carter Manley is going towards his man. He's guarding his man. But in that pass, Castellanos decide to commit towards that ball, missing completely. And he pretty much, because of that, is out of the play, because he has fallen into the ground. He gets up, and Emil Legault is pretty much just running back towards the box. And then he realizes that he's got somebody right next to him that got to the ball, and that's when he reacts, and that's like, oh man, I need to catch up to him. And the attacker, he receives the ball and takes the shot. But here's the thing. Let me go back just a little bit more. Look at where the goal scorer ran from. He ran right next to Chelo, right next to Isidro Martinez. And Isidro never commits, never notifies any of his teammates that you've got somebody running back from behind. Emil Legault doesn't know until it's too late. Castellanos is out of the picture for that commit to that ball. Of course, he's gonna run free into the box.
And taps it in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, credit to El Paso, they took advantage of that one. But if you look at it from a context the first game, road game, bus trip, rusty legs, whatever, I think this was almost a performance that you did not want to give up a loss. And, thankfully the scoreline was where it was at 1-0. And, it's just time to move on. Get ready for the South Texas Derby. And
Okay, but you say move on, but at the same time, we have to call it as we should. We have to call these mistakes. It's not just about turning the page. Our fans are not dumb. Our fans know what's happening.
I understand, but giving giving Blanchett all the credit that he's due because he did do. If it wasn't for Blanchett, that scoreline's probably 3-4-0.
Agreed. But that,
The
but
the the, the defense, I um, it, Isidro. Okay, he runs by Isidro. I noticed that. So at that point, if Legault doesn't say a word either, that's probably a communication issue within the pitch among those two players to try to mark the incoming striker or the incoming midfielder that leads up to the buildup of the goal.
mhm.
That's a communication issue.
And I think I was, yeah, yeah. I mean, because if you, as a player, if you already been gotten beat and you see the player, he's going straight towards space. The first thing you need to do is communicate and let your teammates know, hey, behind you, behind you. There's somebody running behind you. At that point, Emil, it's easier for Emil to cut down to the middle to try to intercept the goal scorer, which was, let me get that guy for you, Dylan Morris. Emil Legault would have cut that into the middle towards Dylan Morris quickly, and probably it would have been a lot more difficult for Dylan Morris to have scored that goal. But nobody said a word. Nobody said anything. Dylan Morris comes, va como Juan por su casa, receives that ball and shoots it in. And honestly, there was nothing. There was very little that Paul Blanchett could have done, because the shot was technically had a decent speed and it was close to the ground. And when you're a tall keeper, especially if that ball it goes like right next to you, it's very difficult to react quickly and drop your body to try to get those kind of shots.
Yeah,
So
it
there was
was a
really nothing he could do.
it was a communication breakdown between the defensive midfielder at that point, which was Cello, and Emil, who could have closed down on that open gap.
Mm-hmm.
If that gap would have been closed, okay, fine. Uh, Maybe at best you get a corner kick out of it, and I gotta commend the team for this. They did a much better job defending set pieces, which has
Yes.
been a fragile part of the team, defending the set pieces. I got to give a major credit to whoever had that defensive mindset there on playing the set pieces. They did so much of a better job containing that, because that that seemed one of the bigger weaknesses that the team had
Mm-hmm.
prior to coming into the season. I felt like that played a crucial role as to why that scoreline wasn't as bad as it seemed.
And there's something that my dad mentioned that I didn't really notice until he told me. The fact that Paul Blanchett is actually, it looked decent up in the air. He had the presence to go up for crosses and intercept them before it got to an attacker. And when you have a keeper that is able to go out there and intercept, that just instills confidence in your back line.
Yeah, and
The opposite
um,
of what happened in the first match happened here. Paul Blanchett gave confidence to his defenders, saying, "Okay, if they manage to get past you, I'm right here behind you to stop whatever I can." And that's what we've been talking about after that first game, about the importance of a good keeper. And Paul Blanchett did a complete 180 and proved me that he is on the road to becoming that keeper.
yeah, and um, I've with the with only Coronado and Castellanos being the only two experienced players on the back line. Um, I was very surprised uh by by their play. You know, they surprised me. They were able to be out there. They were able to resist. But now, um, some of the other guys that came in and played, like your Kembos, um, your Tibersons that had the debuts, your James Murphys.
Mhm.
Uh I felt that they did pretty decent. They for their limited cameo appearances that they had. Tyberson, I kind of agree with what you said a little bit because yes, he kind of played it a little bit conserved because 12-hour bus trip into elevation, coming off a long layoff.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with you there. However, I did see him battling in the midfield, trying to gain possession,
Hmm.
trying to earn fouls, trying to earn
Yeah.
free kicks for the team. That's the kind of player I like to see. And just viewing some past films from Tyberson, I feel like he can be a guy that can probably accompany a striker like Obregon
Hmm.
if given such liberties. If they ever turn, because just viewing the foot mob formation where they had that 4-2-3-1 type of formation,
Yeah.
I I felt that Tyberson could have deployed uh, into that second striker role where you had Kevin and Purpa be the offensive distributors in the midfield. I don't know what you think of that.
I think I think Tyberson, once he gets his fitness back, once he gets his confidence back, I think he's going to be one of those wingers that is going to go up against defenders and try to and instead of backing away, he's gonna go at him. And the way he's built, he's probably gonna intimidate some of the younger guys from other teams.
And I
It'll
will
be
say this,
interesting. It will be interesting to
I will
see
say
them
this
play.
much. I will say this much about Tyberson. Being that he comes from the South American style of play, I kind of do agree with your assessment that he'll be able to take on some of those younger defenders. I will give you that that he won't be afraid to uh, take them on because he coming from a South American style of play, he won't be afraid to take them on.
So I'm gonna read the chat really quick. I appreciate all of y'all's input in the chat. Just a quick reminder: Harry of San Antonio Soccer Roundtable will be joining us in a little bit once we finish our discussion of this match against El Paso Locomotive to talk about the upcoming South Texas Derby match between RGVFC and San Antonio FC. But looking at the chat, we had obviously Johnny says they collapsed in the second half. Michael says it was the worst half I've seen in a long time. Obviously, we've got comments saying that Carter and Castellanos looked good. The cello disappeared. They do want to talk about Beckford and his opportunity that he completely missed and destroyed. With just a bad touch. They ask and answer it after we talk after I talk about the chat. But the question that Michael had, or actually Johnny has, he says, "Do we think it would be different if Beckford came in the first half?" Michael says Tyberson needs to either help our mid or start to help the forwards. Um, Tim
Hmm.
Howard got scored
I,
up again.
I will say about this much about Tyberson. It's all about deployment where coach feels the best suit for him.
Mhm.
He can do both, but until given a set established role for an extended period of time, like let's say first half you're in that attacking creative style, second half you're in that defensive style, that can I that not that they'll kind of mess with the player psyche for a bit, but you got to put into consideration that
It's not a style.
he that would not probably fit his style at all.
Hmm. I don't think anybody has ever mentioned this so far in the chat, but how good did Kevin Rodriguez look out in the wing in the first half?
Oh man, Kevin Rodriguez. Uh, the broadcaster said it best. He has that burst of speed that if you give him just 1 inch of space, he'll find a way to expose you. And he
Hmm.
had a couple of those opportunities. He had those kind of bursts of speed until it wasn't those uh, tactical fouls.
Yeah.
I felt that Kevin Rodriguez should have created two clear chances for the Toros had those two tactical fouls never have been committed.
Yeah, I know
That's
there
just
was
my.
one that was blatant, but I think for me, I would definitely Kevin Rodriguez is going to be the player to look out for this season and see how he grows. He's showing potential. Now he just needs to he needs for him and the team to gain that fitness to keep that pressure up for more than just a half, right? So
So, like I said,
talked about the Shane Beckford. You know, I feel like maybe for now, I would like to see Deshane over Tyberson and have Tyberson as that super sub.
I kind of said that last week, and I'm going to stick to my guns for a little bit. That I would have loved to have seen Beckford Obregon up front,
Hmm.
only because I felt that Beckford's speed and the pro and the pace that Obregon can bring, it can create so many problems to a lot of defenses. And ladies and gentlemen, the latest member of the NWO Wolfpack, aka San Antonio FC, has now joined the conversation. This is Scott Hall, definitely a skinny version of Kevin Nash,
I'm not skinny, man.
or or the midget version of Kevin Nash, ladies and gentlemen, Harry from San Antonio Soccer Roundtable. How are you? Good
Doing
day
well
to you.
here. Got the mask on, mask up if you're in public, and since we're in public, especially down South
I'm
Texas,
in my house, so that's not
please wear your
considered public.
mask.
I'm in my man cave, so it's not public.
So really appreciate having Harry on in this episode. Just before we transition into the South Texas Derby, we do kind of want to summarize our thoughts of the El Paso match. Number one, when your backbone, your support, your foundation crumbles on you, then there's not really much that you can do about it. You can say, okay, it's the bus ride, whatever. It's a very valid point, but I don't see it as an excuse for the complete, what's the word I'm looking for?
Not meltdown,
More like it crumbled away, like the midfield just
like a
crumbled
collapse.
away. Yeah,
Like a
collapse.
collapse.
The midfield collapse, and when you don't have that transition from defense to attack, you're done. So that's why my biggest finger point, if you want to call it that, has the midfield, and the biggest example was that goal, just like we analyzed it. There is potential for this team, but they really got to get that under control for more than 45 minutes. This game is 90 minutes, and hopefully, as fitness comes back to them and they start playing more competitive matches, we see less and less of these kind of performances, which I do have to admit is better than that 5-1 loss at home against LA2. But I mean, the bar was set really low after that match.
And that's what I was going to say. This will probably be the only nice thing I hopefully say about RGV is from the first match against Los Dos, to me, I thought they looked better, especially in the back. Now, I don't know if some of that's because El Paso's not as offensively challenged, especially compared to Los Dos, but I thought the back, but you're right. The middle of the field was just missing. And then of course, there was no,
and let's not
no
forget,
connections.
and let's not forget that El Paso was playing without Omar Salgado.
But
I
still,
will say- I will say this much about the Toros. I think the communication issue just needs to continue to improve. I blame. It's going to be empty stadiums in Texas, at least for the next while. Communication, baby, communication. Just talk it out, hash it out. I mean, I'm pretty sure ESPN will pick up the 4-letter F words and censor them. But it's gonna be one of those things.
Dude, you got to pull Tim Howard, man. He got scored on again. That's what
What's the
7
score?
goals, whatever, because he allowed 5 the first game against
I think
what they
so,
played
yeah.
Tampa or somebody.
Prayers go out to Hull City that allowed 8 against.
For RGV, they're a young team, and I have concerns about SAFC on this as well. There's been no preseason, coming back here, so you're going to be working out these kinks during live games.
Yes.
And I think that's where I'm kind of interested to see how SAFC comes out this week, because we didn't play last week, and I know, Chewy's saying, hey, it's a good thing we're able to scout, build up a little bit more fitness. But to me, there's a huge difference between, playing on the practice field than playing in an actual USL Championship game against live action. So,
And you brought it up to me during the week as well regarding that, and to me, I'm on the boat that you just said. I feel like it's more of a disadvantage for for San Antonio to have gotten a bye week last weekend than it was that for the Tours to have played last weekend. My dad also mentioned, the fact is, I mean, you can't say that it's a week of rest because they haven't been playing at all for the past 9 weeks, just to say a number.
mm-hmm.
The difference between 9 and 10 weeks is really not that much as far as rest is concerned. At this point, the biggest thing is, do you have some competitive play under your belt, like you mentioned, to loosen up some of that rust?
Well, it's just the communication, because that's what you guys are talking about. It's the communication on the field. You can do it all day against your own team. You're 11 on 11, but you know each other. It's playing against somebody that you don't know their tendencies. And I understand they study film and have a basic understanding, but to me, that's my biggest fear on this game. Is I think talent-wise, I think SAFC has more talent. Now, can they get it to equate on the on the pitch? We'll find out Friday night at HEB Park, at 8:00. But with SAFC, they've got some changes that have come on that I don't think many people realize that's happened as of yet. I know we joke around with RGV being Dynamo 2. Our starting center backs are not they may not be with SAFC because they were loanees from MLS, and I know Axel Schulberg was on the bench against the Crew, and Colin Montgomery, who's scored the goal for was with FC Dallas, that went to Orlando. Now he's back, so because of their situation, but we don't know if he's back in San Antonio because I'm assuming, just like you guys, have real limited media availability at this point.
I've got to ask you, Harry.
Yeah.
Much has been said about our youth.
Mm-hmm.
What are the chances that San Antonio FC brings a very, very youthful lineup Friday night?
I think they're going to have youth on the bench.
And let's use the age number of 23 as a magic number.
Well, looking at the roster, you figure, and of course we don't know who they're going to start. So Prano's under 23.
Chewy's under 23.
I don't know if Chewy starts, so that's the problem. He didn't start game 1. So
True.
We don't know what the makeup's going to be come here. I personally think you have to start him going against the team he just left. I think that gives him a big incentive, but who knows? Zachary Hervau, I want to say, is probably around that age. But our forwards are a little bit more, they're mid-20s, mid to late 20s. Jose Gallegos is a young one as a forward. For San Antonio, they got a great mix of youth and vet. It just depends on what we've had one game with the new coach, and that was eons ago. Who knows what San Antonio is going to come out? That's the problem.
And let's not forget that this Real Monarchs of the season is very different from the Real Monarchs of last season that won the championship?
Game 1, they had Ochoa, so they were they were stacked. They didn't Blake didn't travel down, but they still had a lot of the same. Back in March, they still had a lot of the same. Now, Real Monarchs from this past weekend, they're even thinned out a little bit more because of the MLS's back tournament. So that's the thing. I know you guys got a few players that moved up to Houston, and then some reinforcements moved in. So I just think right now it's like game 1 starting all over again. You guys have had the ability at least to see something. I think for San Antonio, we don't know. We'll see come 8 o'clock. What it looks like. I do think with Coach Marcina that it'll be a better team than under Coach Powell. I do think his coaching style. I do think the message that he's provided, and I think just with his history from the Scorpions, Des Moines, and other, he's got a track record where he'll get results. Now, question is game 1, does that relate on the pitch?
What is the overall atmosphere at this point in the San Antonio camp? I like how.
Oh, they're ready to go. It's it's just like you guys were last week. It's hey, let's see some live action. And obviously, starting out the first 2 against RGV, I won't lie, we expect 6 points. If we don't come back with 6 points, and I know that's big based on the track history of the 2 teams. But with RGV having a poor year, RGV having the rough start against Los Dos, that's only fed into it a little bit. So, but it's a rivalry game, and we all know that when it comes to these 2 teams, it doesn't matter what the records are.
Yes,
and it's both teams come to play. There's always some nice fouls, we'll just say, some nice language on the field, and you never know what to expect. It's we've seen some some blowouts for San Antonio's favor down in RGV, and we've seen some heartbreaks last year in Toyota Field. So this rivalry has everything. It's, as a fan, you have to love this rivalry, and like I said here, I'm looking forward to it. I personally wish the games were spread out a little bit more than back to back, and then in September it's back to back again.
Yeah,
I understand it's a unique year, but I think that kind of cheapens it a little bit.
How would you describe Marcina's play style then? Because you mentioned that they have a good mix of veterans and youthful talent. You've got Pirano, who is one of the most highly touted young players in all of the USL Championship. And so, but how would you describe the way that Marcina wants to bring in that combination to
They
San
pressure.
Antonio?
They don't sit back. Like with Darren Powell, you could sit back. They'd let you control it, and let you pass the ball, all around, kind of like what El Paso does, where they'll just pass it. Coach Marcina, from the style from the Scorpions to through the first game that we saw here, he presses a lot more, 2/3 up. So there'll be a lot more pressure on there. I want to say they run kind of they'll have kind of at least starting game. They had 3 center backs kind of, and then the 2 full backs, and then 2 in the mid. And then up front, you got the 2 forwards, and I'm assuming it's going to be Pirano because he's going to be back.
Yeah.
So it's one where, the days of just kind of setting back and letting RGV take it to San Antonio, I don't think that's going to happen anymore. And that's why I think it's going to be a little bit more chippier. Marcina's been known to be an ankle biter. We'll just say that's kind of how he played. Where I know the Scorpions played quite a bit on the edge, we'll say, with some loose tackles, for that here. So I'm looking forward to it. Like I said here, I know you guys are discussing with you guys, but Like I said here, it'll be interesting. No crowd. I think will be interesting to see, because I know we joke around attendance, but whenever you go down there, the Stampede and Stampede's always loud in the bar area, and I typically stand on the other side, but I'll miss the trash talk come that game.
I've got to ask you, Harry.
Yes.
Two of the more important players that have had a lot of history in this derby,
Mm-hmm.
Kai Green, Rafa Castillo.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think those two players will impact for San Antonio FC?
Rafa's retired, so he's not gonna participate for it here. I think he's coaching somewhere, last I heard, around San Antonio.
Okay.
Kai Green's an interesting one. On the wings, we got Maloney and Smith, both MLS talent. I'm trying to see where Kai Green will fit. For that, I know he was not healthy week 1, or he was on the injury list. So we'll have to see where he's back. But that kind of comes into, I know, come 7:00, we'll be very interested to see what kind of lineups come out, for San Antonio, because we've had one, and there's at least 3 changes that, most likely 3 changes that we know of, maybe even, probably 4, because you got to figure Pirano's got to get in there. Mm-hmm. Hayden Partain, he had a picture of himself in a boot, so I'm assuming he's not playing. And then the 2 starting center backs, the big center backs that we had, aren't, are most likely not in. So I hate to say it, it's hard to predict what San Antonio is going to come out, just because there's no track record right now.
Okay, next question before I'll let go to Edson here. Gotta ask, with that being said, how do you think, and Edson, you can chime in on this too, but how do you think that an 8 p.m. start to this game is going to affect everything, with everything being set, because remember, this isn't the first time that the team has played at a late start time. Last season, the team did have an 8:30 start thanks to a exhibition game that was played earlier that day. So Edson, chime in on that.
I think I'll let the guest.
So I think, and this might be something I haven't seen your guys' schedule, but I think the 8:00 games are going to be a norm. San Antonio FC just came out saying instead of the 7:30 kickoffs, they're all going to be 8:00 now. So next weekend when you guys come up here, instead of the normal 7:30 kick, it's going to be an 8:00 kick. Mm-hmm. I think with the heat, with the sun, I think it's smart. 7:30 to 8. It gives maybe a little bit of time to cool off, more time. Playing under the lights as opposed to into the sun. And let's face it, as hot as it is, if you can move it later than any later, it's an advantage for the players. Also, I think travel wise, because I'm assuming San Antonio's going to be taking the bus down, and I don't know if they're staying overnight and coming back the next day, because it's what, a 3.5-4 hour bus ride.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if they're going to leave in the morning, get to RGV in the afternoon. I'm assuming HEB Park, from my experience, has some pretty nice facilities where if they're going to be hanging out for a day, they have some meeting rooms or something where they can go in and be out of the sun for that here. And it wouldn't shock me that they come back after the game as opposed to staying in a hotel, just because of the corona situation here.
Yeah, I
know it'll be a long day, but I think that's why you have 4 games instead of 3 games between RGV and Austin, is because you can go down and back in a day. Now, it sucks to be on a bus 8 hours, 9 hours, especially after playing. I'm sure that's not ideal, but it's what, unfortunately, what they signed up for and what we're having to deal with this year.
And we are actually on the same boat. All of our home matches are going to be at 8 p.m. as well. I honestly think it's a great idea. It's 30 minutes, but yeah, those 30 minutes
make a huge difference.
Make a huge difference when it comes to the sun, especially with the heat down in the Rio Grande Valley. it makes a really big difference. You won't have the sun directly in your eyes or anything like that. Like you said, you're gonna have more the sunset and night playing under the lights. I think it's a really good idea, and especially also like you mentioned, it kind of gives just an extra couple of minutes for both teams to kind of get settled in, especially for the away teams that are going to be making these bus trips, and also with the fact that we're not going to have fans, that isn't it's not going to be a bother for saying for that fans are going to be out too late or anything like that. Everybody's going to be hopefully in their houses, and they'll be able to watch, and it's a lot more comfortable for the players. My question to you, because you mentioned Harry, you mentioned that San Antonio is a very high pressure team thanks to Marcina.
Mm-hmm.
With the fact that you guys have not played a match, the fitness isn't there yet. Do you
Right.
think that that's going to affect the tactics played against RGVFC?
We'll see. That's how they've said is, with the Zoom, they've been doing that. They've said the team's been very focused on him. And I know, head coach Echeverria has also said the same thing last week when he was on the show, that, the team is ready to go. The team's been putting in the work for that here. So that's the question. And I know I think you made the comment, I think online, where, it seemed like 60 minutes and then the legs were gone. And that's where I think the 5 subs come in. And I think that's where the depth, of San Antonio will hopefully, make a little bit difference later on. So, where, maybe if you have, Jose Gallegos come off the bench, if you have Chewy come off the bench, you're going to have those fresh legs that have proven talent, to come off that can kind of help push. So I think the 5 subs is going to be, and this goes for any team this year. The 5 subs is and next year is gonna make a huge difference in this game, because if you got 3, I think you're gonna see a lot more tired legs. But with 5, I think especially I'm assuming you're not switching out the back line or anything like that unless there's an injury. You're going to be able to have kind of a second rotation up front.
Which is why I kind of asked earlier if you think the head coach might deploy a little bit of a younger lineup to kind of get the most out of those younger legs, to therefore use the substitutions for those older legs, where you can probably get the quality 30 to 15 minutes at best.
Here's the counter to that is with RGV, if you can pressure them and get them down, then you can kind of set back. Let's say either 1 goal or 3 goals, because we know 2 goals is you can't do with RGV. If you can get a
or even
2,
the
3
man
goal
up.
lead, and with a man up, but yeah, that's pouring salt in the winds. But I think that I think to me, the longer RGV stays in the game, the more confidence they get, the more dangerous they get. So I think you want to put your number 1 starting lineup out, and you want to try to put RGV out of the game as quick as possible. I think if either team can get a goal early on, I think that puts pressure on the other team and opens the game up. And I know we were talking about the missing midfield for RGV. Is what happens if they start getting pressure and stuff like that? How will they handle that? How will the back line handle it? Because I think against Las Dos, if I remember right, it was the counters that got you guys, right? Where's the counters that burned you?
Yes, and it all goes back to the mentality that you mentioned. How are they going to take the pressure? And the game against Los Dos proved to us that our young guys, and even surprisingly, Kyle Adams could not handle the pressure of, we were doing so good the first 15 minutes, nothing went in. The first one they had, that went in. And now all of a sudden you're 2-0 down, and they just started going insane. They just started, the order, the tactical awareness just went out the window. Everybody did what they felt, everybody did their own thing, trying to get the goals back, and it was just disorganization on the defensive side, and Los Dos took advantage of those with the counter. So I guess that's another one of those things that San Antonio might have probably scouted off of RGV. If you can get, like you said, if you can get some goals on them and play with their heads, you can probably open the floodgates.
But on the flip side, though, if you don't, and the other aspect on this, and I don't think any team's going to sit back, especially in this division. Number one, there's no preseason, so you can't really. If you want your first team out there, you got to get them out. Number one, to get minutes. Number two, it's a 15-game season. You guys have 14 games now.
Yeah.
So it's not a marathon; it's a sprint. So you got to get the players out there. You got to get the minutes up, and down the road, I think is when you'll see probably more of a rotation. But right now, it's more about, hey, let's get that action. Let's get that fitness up. And I don't see first game them coming down with a light lineup. Number one, it's against RGV, and as much as I hate to say it, RGV has 2 more wins than we do. Number two, the last game, the sour taste that left in the mouth. Coach Marcino was on the bench. He was the assistant coach, so you can bet that's going to be in their minds. If they get up a goal, if they get up 2 goals, they're not going to back off. And I'm not saying that they backed off. RGV came back and took it to them, but it's for San Antonio, they've got to. To me as a San Antonio fan, if it's 0-0 or 1, if it's a close game, late in the game, the pressure goes on San Antonio at that point because of their history in this rivalry, in my opinion.
Out of all of the players from RGV, let me rephrase it. Out of all the players of RGV, who do you think that the San Antonio squad fears or respects the most? And personally, who are you more afraid of?
Well, I said it was Garcia, but it wasn't Garcia. Who was the Kevin guy?
Rodriguez.
That dude was a baller last week. And I think, you look at the history of RGV and San Antonio's, it's the wingers that have been killed us. And I think, if memory serves me right, he plays on the wing, with Elizondo, Chewy, like I said here, it's or not Elizondo. What was the guy that was with us last year? That's not with us. Trying to blank. Enriquez? No,
that's Chewy.
Not Chewy.
Who was it?
Mikey?
No, he got the red cards. He had a baby. Went down to Panama, Central America. Anyways,
Carlos Small?
No,
no.
From San Antonio. Was he the guy that was gonna get red carded before they actually gave the red card to Fuenmayor in that game? I think he was Cuban. I think. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, he came from RGV. It was, let me go back to the roster. Hold on.
Came from RGV.
I want to say it's Enriquez. Jesus Enriquez? Was that?
That's Chewy.
No, that's Chewy Enriquez.
And he had
Kai Green? No,
he was a winger.
I know the players that came from here: Charlie Ward, Kyle Murphy, Kai Green, and
Jose Escalante.
There you go, Jose Escalante. He's the one that had the red cards and stuff like that. So, because he tore San Antonio up, and we were all super excited that we got him, and he
underwhelmed.
You could see why RGV let him go, unfortunately. So,
the Dynamo, but yeah,
but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, just and that's nothing against him. And I think it was coaching. To be honest with you, I think Darren Powell, as much as I hate to say it, is he was just too laid back. Like he was a great recruiter, great guy, don't get me wrong, from human to human, always very friendly. But when it came, on the game day, to me, it just, he didn't get the results that he needed to do. And I think with Marcina, you got that fire plug, you've got that gritty player that I think will get the results, or I hope that will get the results. If not, he'll be gone.
So you don't think that the front office for San Antonio is going to have as loose of a leash with Marcina that they did with Powell?
No, because he was already on the staff.
I see.
Right? If you're promoting him because he has a good idea, he's got a good track record, he has been proven here. But if they finished third spot in this group here,
Mm-hmm.
that's another year that San Antonio didn't make the playoffs. And I know RGV has it, but like I said, RGV is kind of the issue with RGV is you've got Houston that takes your best players. There's no team that takes our best players. San Antonio is able to bring in who they want, sign who they want per the coach.
Yeah.
So if you're bringing in the team, if you're saying, hey, this is the team that's going to get it, get us to the playoffs, get us to the title, whatever the thing is, you've been on the staff, because Darren Powell was here 4 years. He had one great year when we had Sebastian Igabaga.
Mm-hmm.
We had that stellar defense for that led by him. But then since then it's been disappointing. I've expressed my frustrations to you privately, Edson, and
yeah,
it's not it's not a shock that this is the first time that I see that SAFC is not on a nationally televised game. There's a reason why they haven't had the results to be able to do it. And
yeah,
they've been replaced by New Mexico and
the new
teams
guys
like that.
The new guys that are showing, that fun play in that fun play style that are making it to the playoffs and that kind of thing. And then all of that really puts those are factors into if you're going to make it into national television or not.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, because of the nature of how RGVFC is, we can't expect to be put on national television.
Not yet.
To give
Maybe
a performance
soon.
like we did on Saturday. I know a lot of people that watched it, they were like,
it was rough. I won't lie to you. I did a Zoom chat, and I had the games on, and we were watching it. It was, but El Paso plays that way. Mm-hmm. And like I said here, if you're not able to connect against El Paso or put any pressure on them, it's just going to be a dull game. They're going to take their one or two opportunities, and if they can cash in, they'll do it. I really thought that game was going to end 0-0. And I know you guys said earlier that barring the mistake on the back line and in the midfield earlier up, it probably would have ended 0-0. Although I do think your goalie stood on his head, with some excellent saves and stuff like that. So, but for you guys, any changes that you expect coming up? Obviously, being at home. What Ben Willis, I think, missed last week here. Do you know if he's coming back for this week or?
My vote of confidence would probably be back on Blanchette. However, I will say this much. I think, for me, I think the new signee Jonathan Jimenez might get a little bit of a run only because there isn't that much depth that we can go to at this point. But as far as that goes, I don't expect any other major changes. Do I expect the same starting 11? No, but I do expect at least one, maybe two at the most.
To me, so to kind of answer Harry's question regarding Ben Willis, the way that Coach Gerson Echeverry mentioned it last week on the show, I don't see it likely that he'll be available this week against San Antonio. Excuse me. I get some light in here. So I think we're going to be seeing Blanchette underneath the pipes once again. To me, I would definitely make a change in the midfield. Maybe put in see, I don't know. But I don't expect it to be. I don't expect to see the same lineup. I actually think that we're going to see Garrett McLaughlin back in the starting 11, and we might see Obregon back on the wing instead of Tyberson. But honestly, that would be my lineup. But other than that, I don't expect any major changes. The defense looked good. Blanchette's going to be back. Hopefully the midfield can get their act together for this match. Now they don't have to make an 11-hour, 12-hour bus ride to mess them up. But really, RGV really isn't a team that does major changes to their lineups outside of having to rotate for midweek games. Other than that, they've really, whenever possible, whenever the Dynamo don't take their players or anything like that, they try to maintain a similar lineups on a weekly basis. So I don't expect major changes going into this match, and I wouldn't be surprised if they actually do repeat the lineup.
So, but here's my, and sorry to interrupt you, Ray. Here's my question to you, and it's kind of a question Ray asked me. You guys play Friday, then Wednesday, I think, at Oklahoma City,
Yes.
and then next Saturday back at Toyota Field. So you've got 3 games, in a week period.
Yeah, I brought this up earlier, like in coach's press conference last week. 4 games, 14 days. How do you manage such rotations? Now that we're not counting on any Dynamo players going or losing in either direction, I think this might be the best time for Coach Echeverry to try to really find a good, strong 11 and try to find the next best 5 players available, barring any type of injury at this point.
Because I hate to say this, and to me, this game is very important for RGV because they played 2 games, in the group. They're still at 0. If San Antonio was to come away with 3 points there, going on the road at Taft is never easy. It's just a bus ride. I'm assuming you guys are taking the bus up if you took a bus to El Paso, because I think it's about the same distance. I'm taking a bus up. It's a narrow field. It's an awkward stadium. It's great for the energy. And then you come back and play again on the road on the way back. To me, you guys could have already played 5 games, and you've got to, in a 16 game stretch. This next week is extremely important for RGV to be able to get some points on the board. If not, if San Antonio, let's say, gets even 4 points from you guys, that puts us at 7. The Bold, let's say they get 3 or 4 points, that puts you guys in a hole with a limited schedule left. So
yeah, which is why I think this is now become a 6-point South Texas derby now.
And that's why you're going to get the best from both teams. Is you can't afford to drop
really
these points.
These first 2 games, although they were really not considered group rivals, just due to the way the group alignments came out, Los Dos and El Paso being 2 opponents from outside of the Texas Oklahoma group. I feel like this must be the catalyst that the Toros need to get their season jump started. I'm risking that the Toros do win this one just because they're at home, and they've done historically a pretty good job playing at HEB Park. Now, I think for Gerson's side, he has a pretty good track record if and when they score first. It's if they allow a goal first, then that's where the numbers really play a bad twist on him. So I think it's kind of important for RGV to get the first goal and try to see if they can manage to play with the lead.
Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead and wrap this show up. Predictions for this match, score predictions, and of course our bold predictions. Harry, what is your prediction for this
I got
match?
5-0 San Antonio.
That's your regular prediction.
That's my regular prediction.
All right, what's your bold prediction?
San Antonio ends up a man down this game and still wins 5-0 or 4 or 5-0. I think how San Antonio came out, I think from hearing from them and talking with people here, I think they're on a mission when it comes against RGV because you hear it all the time, and like RGV cracked back against SAFC about look at the all-time record or something along those lines, and SAFC can't talk. So this is their opportunity where RGV is a little bit young. They're a little bit, I hate to say it for you guys, a little bit down. If you let RGV, and I know Ray mentioned this, if you let RGV make their season, it opens the door for them to come back. Where if San Antonio can come out, get 1-2 goals early, put the pressure on, as you guys mentioned, the team hasn't really handled pressure very well. You could open this up kind of like what you guys did last year. I think it was 3-1 at HEB. Where you guys, and it wasn't even that close. For it here, I think for San Antonio, they've got it. It's got to open up. If it's a close game, I'm not going to be happy. I won't be happy, and I expect a blowout. I know it'll be tough, but it's a perfect solution for SSAFC to go down there. You're going to have the heat. They've had the heat all week up here. There's no stampede. There's no crowd that you've got to worry about at all. And I know we joke about how there's no atmosphere there, but you get on that side of the bar, with the stampede. There is some atmosphere at that point. But I just think for San Antonio, they've got the talent. They need to step up, and if they don't, it's going to open up a whole lot of questions on this fan base that, because Marcina's a good hire. I like him, but there's a lot of people that are very concerned because he was on Coach Powell's staff. Why are you bringing in, the guy underneath him if you're thinking things are going to change?
Ray, your prediction.
Ray's already said that RGV is going to win. He said that a couple minutes
ago. Not the score.
All right. RGV wins 2-1. That's my regular prediction. However, here's my bold prediction. Edson, cover your ears. Chuy Enriquez starts.
Oh.
He tries to provoke a red card to either Castellanos or Coronado. And I say that there might be some rash play as my bold prediction. The play is going to be pretty rash that each team might lose a man. Mm-hmm. And it ends up in a brilliant stalemate at a scoreless draw. It's going to be a fun.
I do have a wager for you, Edson. I do have a wager here for you after
another
after you do
one.
Your
I've already got one with somebody. All right, what's your wager?
No, you go with your prediction first.
All right, my prediction for this match. (1-0) RGB. I feel that at this moment right now, the Toros are not clicking at 100% offensively, but our defense is looking decent going up against a team that doesn't have any actual competitive play under their belt for this year after COVID. So San Antonio is going to be super rusty. We saw it in not only with the RGV match against El Paso, but in other matches where what are technically easy passes on a regular day. You know, they were very inaccurate. You know, communication is lacking. So I feel that RGV are going to take advantage of that situation, and they're gonna squeak by a win with the minimum. Now, my bold prediction definitely is going to be 3-2 loss. 2 goals scored by Chuy Enriquez.
That was going to be my bet to you. Is if Chewy starts, I think he gets a brace. I was gonna bet you, but I can't do that if you're already saying, "Hey, if that's your bold prediction."
My bold prediction is that someone might deplete him. It might become a very hotly contested game that ends in a scoreless draw on my end.
So you kind of bring up a point. I've always thought Chewy left on good terms. Is that not necessarily?
He left on good terms.
He left on good terms with RGVFC. Now, if you get his perspective about the Dynamo situation,
Right, but that's common when you get people that are leaving the Dynamo. He's not the first person, and
it's well documented. It's well documented with Charlie Ward.
right.
Look, but Harry, there's a difference between that. Chewy left on really good terms about RGV. He said it himself. It was RGVFC left in good terms, you know, with the fan base, with his former teammates and everything. But Chuy Enriquez is also a very professional player. That he is going to give it his 100% once that whistle blows for the start of the match. He's not going to care whether his best friends are
I agree with
ahead
that.
of him. He's not going to care. And also, we know that Chuy Enriquez, once he's on the field and he gets frustrated, he can tend to be a hothead. We saw it last year, where he got into a fight with Manny Padilla when New Mexico came down to RGV. And Manny Padilla, you could say that he hung out with Chuy Enriquez a lot when he was here at RGV. Let's not bring that up. Yeah, but the point is that Manny was considered a really good friend of Chuy while he was here, and even after he left for New Mexico United.
Right.
But once he's on the pitch, he doesn't care about that.
No, I agree.
So you'll probably see something like that from Chuy.
And that's why I think in this game, and Ray might be right, it might not finish 11-on-11. I think just with the history of Marcina, where he likes to pressure, he likes to agitate. You got Pirano, you got Jose Gallegos that create fouls, I guess you can kind of say sometimes, because their quickness, and they'll lean in and then fall down a little bit easy, kind of like the RGV method, but I think you're right. I think that there's going to be cards in this. It's going to be hot. Both teams are going to be both teams have something to prove. RGV's came off a tough, 2 tough losses. San Antonio, yes, they got the win against, and I know Chewy mentioned, hey, we got the win, we deserve the bye. I'm sorry, you didn't deserve the bye. Until you start beating Tulsa, until you start beating RGV, until you start winning, the teams in your group, that's when you deserve the bye. And like I said here, it's awesome that they won. Don't get me wrong, but as a fan base, we want for San Antonio, there's 2 teams we want to beat. Number 1's RGV, number 2's Austin Bold, and last year it didn't happen as much as we wanted. We'll just leave it at that.
So they're going to be playing with hurt pride. Is that what I'm hearing?
They're going to be playing on a mission. I'm telling you, it's, and just like you guys are, it's a sprint. We discussed this. RGV has to have this. In my opinion, they need to come away with 3 points against San Antonio.
Yeah.
If they don't, and if San Antonio is able to get the win, you guys go up to Oklahoma City, which is kind of an interesting team. I watched them against Tulsa. I thought they would be better. I didn't think they were as good. So I think, Oklahoma City is somebody you could walk away with at least a point on the road, which I think in this, quick season here, getting a point on the road and winning at home is going to be pivotal. Drop points are going to kill you. And, like I said here for RGV, like I said here, it's, the two out of games that you guys have. I think you have one more, right? I know you play us 4 times, but you don't play Austin 4 times, right?
No, 3.
So you guys have another outside game.
New Mexico.
So, so that's the other oddity on this. We played Real Monarchs, we play El Paso, and the rest of our games are in the group. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I don't know. I think I would say that would be a good thing. I assume.
Because you don't have to travel. It's 6-point matches.
You don't have to travel as far though. That's why.
But it's 6-point matches though. And, no offense, but Austin, Tulsa, and Energy all get Sporting Kansas City too. Which we think I think RGV is bad. RGV is a hell of a lot better than Sporting Kansas City too.
I mean, that's just
look. Let's not forget Sporting Kansas City 2 or Swope Park Rangers, whatever they may be called.
The team formerly known as Swope Park Rangers.
The Road Warriors.
Those guys went to a championship game not too long ago.
It's a completely different team. The other thing is, do you know how many home games that they're playing?
Not a whole lot.
They're playing 1. They played the initial game against Charlotte at home. They play Oklahoma City at home. All their other games are on the road.
Oof.
So you tell me how good that they're going to be coming down to Austin, coming down to Tulsa. Tulsa's not that far of a drive, but to me, like I said here, I can't imagine as a team. And I know New Mexico is one that's kind of a little bit interesting as well. They still haven't, from last I saw, they still haven't got the okay to play in New Mexico.
Yeah.
So you have to wonder if maybe that becomes a home game for.
I will tell you this about New Mexico. They've trimmed it down to 2 soccer venues. Either they use New Mexico State's women's soccer field, or they play at the University of New Mexico.
But isn't the ban like in throughout the whole state?
Mm-hmm. They have to get an exception from the governor. Hasn't gave them the clear yet. That's the issue.
Yeah, but right now, what I had recently read is it's either of those 2 venues, but they were leaning more on the University.
But it doesn't. But it
doesn't matter. They're not having fans.
Yeah. And as long as the governor doesn't give them the exception, the permission to be able to hold games wherever they say they want to do it, it's not going to matter. It's not.
I do think they will get it because, from my understanding, New Mexico United has a great relationship with the governor. Mm-hmm. I do think there might be some restrictions on teams coming in. So it may be one where you have to go in and leave, possibly that, go in and go out or have very, because the issue is how she wants it is that, you're going to be quarantined for 2 weeks. If you go in, or I guess I shouldn't say she, I don't know if it is a she, is the governor wants to have them, quarantined. So to me, that's the interesting, fact on this here. But I did have one kind of question here, and I guess it kind of goes for both of us. I know you guys have seen pictures, with Oklahoma City where they had the fans on the field. I know with San Antonio, from what I've heard, like my seats aren't available. The first 2 to 3 rows, they're not going to let fans in on. Mm-hmm. If fans come back, which you can debate whether it's right or wrong. Do you think fans will be near the field or in the field level suites down there on the field, or you think they're going to be up in the stands away?
No,
I actually, as far as I've understood it to be.
Yeah, and HEB Park wants it to be at a maximum of 25% capacity,
which would be just your season ticket members, right? Because I think that's all San Antonio FC is going to do is season ticket members. And whatever that amount is, which
I know they're selling packages. They're selling packages for for return to play that aren't necessarily season tickets. So I don't think it's limited to season ticket holders only. But I do know for sure that they want 25% maximum hopefully after this match against San Antonio. Officially, that's the only game that
That's what
will
we've
be
been
without
told.
fans, right? Everything else, it's up to see how this pandemic continues to evolve in the Rio Grande Valley, if they'll allow fans or continue to play under closed doors. But as far as the suites, I think personally, I mean, I don't know for sure what if they'll allow them on the suites. If anything, if anything, they'll probably just put like a barrier on just outside the door, so that you have a little pathway so you can be outside, but you won't necessarily be able to go into the actual seats that are next to the field. And I'm pretty sure the suites that are right next to the benches, those are not going to be available. Yeah. Yes.
Well, that and then the walkway, right? Because the benches are on the other side, but where they come in and out is
correct. It's through the middle of the
east side.
It's through the middle of the concourse.
Right.
So I'm assuming that they're probably going to just open up the side of the field that's on the what is it, west side? West side.
The west side is press box side. East side is more
so the
locker room.
Yeah, I think
so
they'll
they'll
open
probably
up the
open
west
the west
side, number
side,
one,
even
because
the-
of the shade. Because the west side is through there here, and I'm hoping maybe come the August time frame, if things are a little bit better to, if it seems more reasonable to maybe travel down for that here. I know I spoke with Mr. Patel. I know he's he mentioned that he's hoping to kind of come up more the Labor Day weekend time frame in September. So hopefully by that point we'll be able to travel to each other's place within reason for it. But there is one other thing, as far as that I want to say, and I don't know if you guys mentioned it, but thoughts and prayers to the police officers and families, from San Antonio. Was it that was lost, not in Edinburgh, but the
in McAllen.
not Midland. What's the
McAllen?
The McAllen down there that unfortunately lost their lives this week here. So, something that you never want to see. So, thoughts and prayers from San Antonio, for the valley.
Appreciate it, man.
We definitely appreciate it, man. But guys, I think that's gonna do it for tonight, because I'm about to disappear from screen.
You don't have no utilities, man.
I do, but once I start, I don't want to get up to turn on the light, and once I forget, you're like
RGV. You start out all bright, and then as the game goes on, you get darker and darker and fade away. Perfect.
Oh my god!
Bam.
Oh yeah. That was a softball to you. Oh man, I just left it for you just so you can hit that home run. Oh man. But anyway, Harry, thank you for coming on the show this week. A lot of good insights on both teams, not just on San Antonio, which we definitely do appreciate. May the best team win. Hopefully that'll be RGV.
Nope.
Seems legit. But what we do expect this to be a good game. Hopefully the team have safe travels down to the Rio Grande Valley, and hopefully we'll see a great game. Hopefully no injuries. Will come out of this game, although like you said, it will probably be very chippy. So that there's always that possibility. Ray, as always, thank you for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
To talk Toros like we usually do. It's a shame that Jacob didn't appear today.
He was scared, man. He didn't want any more of me. He was scared. He's probably got some racing thing or something coming on.
Jacob, he's calling you out. Jacob, he's calling you out.
Well, Michael's trying to talk about, hey, they're the real South Texas Stampede. See, San Antonio's so big, we can cover both South Texas and Central
Nah,
Texas.
you guys are just going through an identity crisis. You guys don't know what you really are.
Hey, we're
But-
American. That's what we do.
But guys, everybody who's in the chat that participated, thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate all of y'all's input and participation in the chat. We really appreciate. I know we didn't talk a lot with you guys in the chat, but there was a lot of topics that we wanted to cover about the San Antonio match and as well as last Saturday's match against El Paso. If you guys missed any part of the show, we will be posting the segments as the week goes by. We'll be posting the segments on the Beautiful Game Network's website, which will be available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and SoundCloud. So you guys can listen back to anything that you missed. Also, huge shout out to our sponsors. We've got with Natural Beauty Spa, with the Beautiful Game Network, Icarus FC, and of course, Roughneck Scarves. So huge shout out to them. Be sure to also check out, if you guys are interested in hearing their side of the story going into this Friday, be sure to check out their podcast, which is called the San Antonio Soccer Roundtable. Harry, information about that.
Yeah, so a little bit about that this week. We're actually going to try to do a pregame, a little bit separate from the normal San Antonio Soccer Roundtable. It'll probably be on our platform. However, it's going to be us, Jonathan Check, Steven Anderson. Both of those do a lot of the media. So we're going to try to do a pregame show. I think it's going to kick off, I think 6:30 is what Scott set up here.
Yeah.
So like I said here, and hopefully by about 7:00, if San Antonio's nice, they'll put out their lineup that we'll be able to discuss that. But, like I said here, of course, you can follow me at RAMINCOL on Twitter. I also do Instagram and Facebook through there as well, but mainly on Twitter. But it's a great show, guys. Awesome to be on. I think this is my 4th or 5th appearance here. So thanks for another cap. And like I said here, no matter what happens, like I said here, hopefully next week we'll be able to laugh and cry and complain about the refs, the players, the goals, and enjoy that, because as we've seen, the game can be taken away very easily due to this damn virus.
Yeah. And if you guys don't want it to leave again, be sure you wear your freaking mask. It's all on us. Well, appreciate everybody. We'll see you back next week, hopefully with some good news. But whatever happens,
on Wednesday, you'll have good news. How are you doing your podcast next week, buddy?
Probably going to be doing it on Thursday.
You'll get good news on Wednesday. So start out real somber, hey, Harry was right. Wednesday, hey, we rebounded, and we got a little bit, our spirits are lifted a little bit just to be crushed again next week. So
seems legit. But hopefully we'll have some good news next week, next Thursday. Be sure to check out, obviously, on Friday, the match against San Antonio on ESPN Plus and Somos El Valle 5.2 on local TV. I know Harry's kind of disappointed about San Antonio in that, but also on Wednesday against Oklahoma on ESPN Plus.
Look,
so,
before you give the nice perennial goodbye, I will leave Harry with this cheap shot. Harry, if CW21 up there in San Antonio was able to air a local high school football game,
CW35, yes.
How much more work does San Antonio FC have to do to get some sort of contract with them? Because
they don't have to do any work. You know why? They have a contract with the Spurs. That's why I keep harping. They play American Ninja Warrior 2019, and that's a great show, not to discount it, but it's a freaking repeat. And then, yes, they have Impact Wrestling, and if you're a wrestling fan, I enjoy wrestling. Mm-hmm. You can move that back a half hour or an hour.
And I will say this much. I mean, thankfully, I was able to see some real high school football, unlike the stuff we have down here where it's basically all politicized. Sorry, high school football folks. I'll duck and cover.
I'll have to follow up with you on that because I'm not catching that one.
Okay. we'll talk on Twitter on that one, but I will let you know that, hey, if CW up there was able to air a local high school football game, it seems like the soccer side has some work to do.
You're preaching to the choir, man. I've been pounding that. You know, any team, Colorado Springs has it. Austin Bulls had it. Tulsa's got it. RGV's got it. New Mexico's got it. El Paso's got it. But San Antonio, hey, go to ESPN Plus. Yay. How the hell are you growing the fan base this year? But that's a separate discussion.
not every team can have the privilege of having a president like Ron Patel. So
that is true. You know, like I said here, after Sam Dorr, you know, and he went to Phoenix and now he's with Arizona Coyotes. I am a big fan of Mr. Patel, and like I said here, you know, I expect big things from you guys. Maybe not this year, but you know, if things work out how I hope they're going to work out for you guys, I think RGV will be the next FC Tulsa, where you know you go from an automatic 3 points except against San Antonio to you know one that's you're in for a fight. You know, if you're going down to as Devin Kerr says, the city where dreams die.
Ouch. But guys, that's gonna do it for tonight. We'll see each other next Thursday, and go Toros. Take care. Have a good night.